I'm not sure I like that music. I think for a NASCAR show, we need to like.
It's a little strange, yeah.
All right. Well, StreamYard, which is what we use to broadcast our shows for Facebook and YouTube, they just kind of put that in the background. We'll figure that out and have some better, like, I don't know, country for NASCAR.
For NASCAR, yeah.
Maybe some
Yeah.
rock, classic rock, maybe. All right. Anyway, you're listening to the S3 Racing Show on the S3 podcast. I am your host, JD, and with me, as always, my co-host, Lady M. How you doing today?
I'm good.
You feeling good about today?
Sure.
A little competition that we got going on? Got a little extra on it.
I don't necessarily want to shave your head. You came up with that all on your own.
Well, I needed a little bit, a little bit more motivation. I mean, you know me just as good as anybody else. There's two things that motivate me. One of them's money.
Yeah.
Which we don't really put up because we share.
Yeah.
So, like, I had to come up with a different way to motivate myself not to lose 3 straight weeks in this competition. So, if I lose this week in the competition, she gets to shave my head. So, what would we do for a 4th week? I don't even want to know what's going to get.
We'll have to go week by week.
We'll figure. I got to get a tattoo of a unicorn. Anyway. Real quick, let's give a shout out to Heroes Media Group. Heroes Media Group is a digital media branding and publishing platform committed to providing a voice for our community heroes and those who support them. For more information on how to launch your podcast and your brand, please go to www.heroesmediagroup.com. We are on StreamYard, so let's see if we can get some comments going in the comments section. If you're watching on Facebook, if you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and throw those comments in there. Good, bad, we don't care. My personal saying is if you don't have haters, you're not trying hard enough. So, hey, haters, you want to throw something in the stream? Go ahead. Doesn't mean we're going to respond to you, but hey, thanks for showing up. I do want to mention that I have something actually very big in the works for all of you fanatics out there. So stay tuned to hear what's coming up and how it might change your sports world forever. And that's not an understatement. It did for me. It could for you as well. Coming up on this episode, what to know about Martinsville, inside the numbers, DraftKings DFS picks, and of course the competition. But again, what's first?
Turn 1, Martinsville.
All right. So what do we know about Martinsville? Well, it's shaped like a paperclip. Outside of that, Martinsville Speedway is a 0.526 mile track. It is the longest continuously running track on the NASCAR Cup Series schedule and the only currently active track that was part of the inaugural NASCAR Cup season back in 1949. I did not know that.
No, that's pretty cool.
Interesting little tidbits that I get from a NASCAR press release that they send me every week. So it's pretty cool. Martinsville was originally a dirt track. For those of you that don't know, it was originally paved in the late summer of 1955 in between the two races that they hosted back then. In total, there have been 148 Cup Series races held at Martinsville Speedway. Very first race was on September 25th, again, 1949, won by NASCAR Hall of Fame, Red Byron. The name Byron will come up again during this show. He was driving, back in the day, he was actually driving an Oldsmobile, which, as we know, they're not around anymore. So this weekend, we have 10 drivers in the lineup who have won races at Martinsville, led by Denny Hamlin with 5. Martin Truex Jr. has 3 wins. Brad Keselowski, who you have on your team today, has 2. Kyle Busch, who I did not pick. Obviously, I'm wearing Busch today, as I do every NASCAR show. He's got 2 wins at the track. Christopher Bell had 1 last season, and William Byron, there's that name again, also had 1 win last season, followed by Bowman, Elliott, Logano, and Harvick, all also with 1 win. NASCAR Hall of Famer Richard Petty leads the all-time list of wins at Martinsville with 15. Petty also owns the record with the most short track wins with 138. The closest active driver is Kyle Busch with 26 wins, followed by Harvick with 24. So his record's probably well, it's never going to be touched. That's a lot of wins. That's a lot. There's a reason why he's called the king. And that's just his short track stuff. Local talent, speaking of Martinsville, Denny Hamlin is actually from Chesterfield, Virginia. He leads all active drivers again with 5 wins at Martinsville and is third on the list of active driver victories at short tracks with 17. What's next?
Turn 2, inside the numbers.
All right, so the tale of 2 practices. The first practice had optimal conditions and the speeds were drastically faster than the second group to hit the track. I'm just going to give you some examples. There were cars that showed a ton of speed during the first practice that ended up not qualifying very well. For example, Tyler Reddick. He did qualify in 6th, but he absolutely dominated the early practice with the excellent conditions. The 10 lap, the 20 lap, all the way through the 30 lap. He was the dominant car on the track. William Byron was second in the early practice, but he would actually qualify 8th. Ross Chastain was 3rd fastest, but qualified in 34th. So you can kind of see how the better track conditions would kind of skew the numbers a little bit when it comes to qualifying. Also, Chase Elliott, who's making his return from a broken leg, a skiing accident, I think it was, comes back today. He was top 10 the entire practice, but qualified in 24th. On the other side, during the slower practice, Martin Truex Jr. Was average at best in the second practice, but he would qualify in 5th. So you kind of see how these faster cars, or the cars that are set up for all conditions, they were in the slower practice, but they qualified very well. Also on that list, Chase Briscoe, back of the pack in the second practice, qualified 4th. Ryan Preece is another great example. Ran bottom half in practice, but qualified on the pole for today's race. What's next?
Turn 3, DraftKings DFS.
All right, for your DFS, your daily fantasy on DraftKings. First off, I want to give a shout out to Chris Pinnell. You can follow him on Twitter at ChrisPinnell16. Also, check out his YouTube channel where he breaks down NASCAR and MLB DFS. He actually sends me all my numbers, my stats, my practice, my qualifying, what they've done in previous short track races, what they've done previously at Martinsville.
Very thorough.
Very thorough spreadsheet he sends me every week. He also does Major League Baseball. He does breakdown daily for Major League Baseball as well. So make sure you check out his channel. Definitely want to give a shout out to him. So this week for Martinsville, which starts in about 40 minutes, so you still got plenty of time to get your team in, or maybe even make some changes to the team that you have. Potential dominators. You want a team that has 2 to 3 dominators. You're going to get the majority of your points today from leading laps. Not going to say you can't get any from points differential, but because of the size of the track and the limited amount of space that you have to pass, along with how well teams are going to manage their tires on short tracks, point differential is going to be second. I'll just say it's not as important as dominator points. So potential dominators, you want up there. Byron, there's that name again. Truex, Harvick, Reddick, and I'll also put Preece as my top 5 potential dominators up there. I don't like too many drivers below the $6,500 range on DraftKings. Corey LaJoie is probably the only driver I would take, and I think I did take on my team. You have him for the competition. I'm definitely hoping he gets points for place differential starting way back in 27th. My ideal lineup for today, I got Byron at 10-8. If you're playing cash games and you're just looking for somebody to pick for the win, I think he's at like plus 400, so it's not a great payout, but he's probably the guy that's going to end up winning this race, picked by many, many people out there. Also, Martin Truex Jr. at 10-3. I've got him number 2. I got Chase Briscoe at 8,600. I've got Brad Keselowski at 7,700, Ryan Preece at 7,400, and Corey LaJoie with the remaining 5,000. So LaJoie could be very valuable for me for that team. What's next?
Turn 4, the competition.
All right. So if I lose, she shaves my head. If I win, I get to shave her head. She didn't know I had her sign a contract in her sleep last night. It's legal. I checked it. It's her kind of signature. So we'll see what happens. I'm not shaving her head. I am going to shave my head, though, if I lose. So currently we're locked at a 2-2 tie for our competition. A little bit more on the competition today. Again, if I win, I take the lead. If I lose, she gets to shave my head. I don't know if we're going to do that live, though. Probably.
Your call. It'll be messy if we try to. You could just do a reveal.
So anyway, let's get to the teams. Since I lost last week, I've lost the last 2 weeks, I get first pick. I was thinking, though, everybody who's had the first pick has lost. I believe, well, with the exception of the third week.
When it turned around, yeah.
Yeah, when you turned it around. So the majority of the time, the person with the first pick loses the week. So I went ahead and I took Byron. You countered with
Harvick.
So it's going to be Byron versus Harvick. The way it works is whoever finishes ahead of the other person earns a point for their host. All right. In the second pick, I've got Denny Hamlin. You've got
Ty Gibbs.
That's going to be interesting because I never thought about Ty Gibbs until you mentioned him. He didn't get much mention from Chris either. So, but again, so the way we broke this down, just to give you a little bit more information, we go drivers 1 through 8, 9 through 16, 17 through 24, 25 through 32, and then the remainder of the field, whoever's left. So the last pick, you're going to be like, why would you pick them? Well, because they're in the back of the field. That's why. So again, Byron versus Harvick, Hamlin versus Gibbs.
Racer versus racer.
Versus, it's head-to-head. Yeah. It's head-to-head. All right. Simple. In the third slot, it was tough for me because Kyle Busch is in that third group.
Both our guys.
Both of our guys.
Bowman was in there too, but I went in a different direction.
And none of us picked our favorite driver today. None of us.
I don't know why.
We're still cheering for him. If he wins, awesome. Good job, Kyle. Yeah, Alex. All right. But I did pick a Kyle. I picked Kyle Larson.
Yeah.
You countered with? Keselowski. Keselowski's pretty good. He's in my lineup today for DFS too. So, God, I went away from a lot of things, especially with this next pick.
Yeah, this next pick surprised
me. Next pick. Oh,
I was a little shocked.
We're not gonna go over the whole story. Let's just say there are reasons why I don't like my next pick, but I picked him anyway.
NASCAR nemesis.
I picked Ryan Blaney. You countered with LaJoy. I actually like LaJoy more than Blaney. I like every driver more than Ryan Blaney, but I'm trying to win. I'm going to give him a little bit of credit. I'm hoping he takes that forward. This is what usually happens with Ryan Blaney. All right. My personal feelings aside, way aside. So Ryan Blaney, what he does is he'll drive to the front, not the front, but like maybe top 10, and then he'll get like a pit road speeding penalty.
Right.
And I'll have to do a drive-through, or there'll be something going on with his crew where there's like a loose wheel and they get a penalty and he goes to the back. This happens all the time. Or he gets spun out and wrecked because there are other people out there that hate him other than me. It just happens. Anyway, because of the slot and how far back we're making picks at this point, this is the fourth group. I've got Blaney. You've got LaJoy.
Yeah.
All right. I would not mind losing that pick.
That particular
at all.
Bracket.
In the back, the final, there were only like four slots.
Yeah.
I did find Ross Chastain in the back.
Yeah.
Hanging out in the back. Yeah. So I do like that. You're countering with.
Him, I would have picked him. So.
Right. I mean, it's obvious.
I knew you were gonna when I saw his name down there, but.
Who'd you counter with?
I went with Zane Smith.
Zane Smith.
I remember our dude talking about him, Chris.
Yeah. Chris wasn't big on Zane Smith.
He wasn't big on anybody.
But he did mention him.
Chastain.
He did mention him.
Yeah.
You probably don't want to know what he said when he mentioned him, but He did mention him. All right. As I mentioned at the beginning of the show, I do have something really big in the works for all of you fanatics out there. I mean, what would you do if you could interview your favorite teams and players? I've actually got a new program in the works. Sports Media X might actually help you do that. Stay tuned to future shows and follow us on social media so that you can sign up for when that program comes out so that you can learn more about it. Once again, make sure you check out Heroes Media Group. You can check out and learn more about Heroes Media Group and all of our podcasts by going to www.heroesmediagroup.com. Check out the S3 on Twitter. You can follow me, JD, at Smotside, SMAAHDSIDE. Follow Lady M on Twitter at LadyM_S3. Look for DraftKings picks for myself on Twitter and Facebook pages for both NASCAR and daily baseball contests starting this week. That's it for this week's episode of the S3 with JD. Until next week, I'm JD with the answer to the trivia question I never asked. Angels in the Outfield. Great movie. Not really. More for the kids.
Yeah,
but it came out when I
movie.
was younger. So,
Yeah.
I mean, decent.
Good memories.
All right. Moving on. Thanks for watching. Take care, everybody.